things that was shown, some of the bread that was pictured. I heard you ask them about the sour percentage.
Yes.
How do you figure that out?
Good
I haven't
question.
gotten that far in my books yet.
No problem. No, I was just talking to Katie about that. She was saying that she wanted to kind of get her sour started a little bit. And it's a real simple thing. You already have a sour going, Ray?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it active?
Yeah, I've got it in the fridge. I made bread about a week ago with it.
Okay.
And it's been sitting in there just waiting for me to use it again.
Cool. Yeah. Here's what I do. I usually get it out the night before I want to work with it. And just let it sit on the countertop. And it'll get real nice and bubbly and active. And that way the next morning, within about 6 to 8 hours, it'll be pretty active at that point. So let's assume you have active sour. And this is what I was just saying to Katie. If I'm using 1,000 grams of flour, I want to use 200 grams of sour. So that's 20%. Now, that's pretty low. Some people would go even lower than that. I was just talking to a baker that is right near here, and she says that she uses like 10%. Now, what that does is it stresses the bread even more, and stress is good in the sense that you're really getting it to work. It works very slowly, but it becomes a very strong flavor, and you get a little stronger sour that way. I like a relatively mild flavor in mine, but 20% is a good place. Some people will go up to 30%, which I think is not very good because, and I'll tell a story on myself, 30% gives you a little too much acid. And you know what happens when you do too much acid. It's not a good thing. The story I was going to say, though, was not about the acid or Woodstock or anything, but it was more about when I first started baking and I got my sour going. I was like, this is so, I'm tasting it, and I was like, this is going to be good. So I said, well, wait a minute. If 20% is good, 100% has got to be better, right? So I used 100% sour in my bread. And I mix it up, and it's like bubbling, and it's like, oh, it's just happy as anything. The salt tastes good. Everything's like right on the money. I'm like, wow, this is going to be really killer bread. Well, nobody ever said not to do 100%. I mean, I guess I should have asked, but I'm working with it. I'm making bread, and I go to form the loaves, and I come back in 3 or 4 hours, and I got pancakes. The reason I got pancakes there, I mean, it's just flat. There's no structure to it at all, is because there was too much acid. It took that flour that was in there, and it just destroyed the structure, the protein that was in there, and it made it very soft. I still baked it off, and so we had kind of like this weird, you ever had lavash before? Flatbread. And we had flatbread, but it was like one big sheet pan full of goo. But it was pretty tasty goo. But I was looking for a nice round boule loaf, and I got this nothing. So I learned my lesson. And so since then, I've always kind of dialed it back to less and less sour. And 20% is pretty much the way I do it. Where I learned that was from a guy named Chad Robertson out in San Francisco. If you're interested in a really good book, I want to push a book on you guys. Hang on one second. I want to pull it up here. This guy, Chad Robertson, wrote Tartine. Anybody ever been to Tartine? I'll show you this book. This is probably one of my favorite books on bread, and it's real simple. And he just lays it out for you. That's a really good book on sour, and that's all he makes is sourdough bread. I don't think he uses any instant yeast at all. You want to see some more good books? I'll take that as a yes. So Tartine by Chad Robertson. This is another friend of mine. This is Jeffrey Hamelman, and he wrote a really hard to remember title called Bread. And this guy, he taught me so much about croissants and very high fat doughs. I used to make brioche with him, and he taught me something really interesting about brioche. Any brioche fans out there? Let me see if I got some fans in the chat. No, definitely. She says, Zita says yes. But brioche, do you know what brioche is? It's high fat dough. You got 50% eggs, 50% butter. This is a really nice fatty dough. In fact, I made some this morning. But so the way I was taught to make it was that you're supposed to put the butter in very slowly, just a little bit of butter and then a little more butter. And it takes a long time to get all the butter in, right? And so I'm starting to work with Chef Halleman, and he goes, I start, a little piece of butter at a time. And he says, what the hell are you doing? Let's go. And he's like kicking my ass, right? And I said, well, isn't this the way you make brioche, chef? And he goes, and he said a bad word. I won't say now, but he said, put all the effing butter in at once. Yes, chef. Okay, I'm there. So boom, it goes in. We're doing like 3 or 4 pounds of butter on this one batch of dough. And I'm like, is that going to work? Because I was always told it wouldn't work. Of course it worked. And this guy's been baking bread for 40 years. He knows what he's doing. But you learn a lot of things when you work in a commercial kitchen that are officially not, supposed to be done that way. But that's the way I've been teaching it ever since. And I love it. I love brioche. But those are 2 of my favorite books. Another one of my favorite authors is a guy named Peter Reinhardt. And I want to show you one of his books too. And then we'll take some questions. Peter Reinhardt, the Whole Grain book. I love this book. I don't know if you guys are digging whole grains at all, but whole grains, I think, have a little more interesting texture. They're a little bit more of a challenge than white flour. White flour is actually pretty easy to bake with. Once you start making good bread, oh my God, white flour is too easy, right? So I like a little more challenge. With whole grains, you have to kind of coax a little more flavor out of it. And another thing that people do with whole grains is they add a lot of sugar. Well, we get past that by longer fermentation, which actually develops more sugar, kind of like you're making alcohol, and you're extracting the sugar from the flour. This is another good book called Crust and Crumb, and this is the one I learned off of when I first started baking. This guy is awesome. So Peter Reinhardt. And if you're buying a bread book, other than your textbook, of course, but if you're buying a bread book, look for one that has the formulas listed in grams and ounces, or grams at the very least. Do not use cups. Do not use tablespoons. And if it says a dash of this or a pinch of this, throw that book out. It's no good. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Well, welcome. So I'm looking across, and we only have, I thought we had more folks here. I could have sworn I saw more folks come on. But welcome Dina and Ray and Zaida and Katie. How are you guys doing tonight? Doing pretty good. What have you guys been baking? What have you been baking? Any good bread?
Not really, chef, but actually I found this book. It was a sale over the library, the local
What's it called?
Local library. It doesn't have a place, but probably you can see it there. It's called the Professional Baking.
Yeah, that's my Facebook.
And this one have a really good formulas, and like you say, everything is set on grains and pounds. I'm just looking around the book lately, and looks like I'm gonna practice a couple of those.
Dina, can you tell me, what edition is that?
This one, the second edition.
Whoa, cool. All right, excellent. Because they are now on, I want to say 7th or 8th edition for that particular book. That was the textbook that I had when I was in school.
Oh, well, I'll be lucky, and I found this one, and like I say, local library have a sale.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, 25 cents.
That's a bargain. Definitely worth it.
But it's a really good book. I like it. So I'm going to practice some of those whenever I find time.
Good. Yeah, time is the key. And that's what I was just talking to Katie about, too, is that you got to kind of plan for the time. And I never did finish talking about that, Katie. And maybe you guys would like to join in this. If you have some comments, please join in. But she was saying that she never got her sour started. But I was saying, too, that she's in a bakery all day. Ironic, in a bakery, she didn't have time to bake bread. But she's baking other products other than that, obviously. But one of the cool things about making bread, I make a lot of it by hand. And right here at the house, So I'll get up early in the morning. I feed the cats at 4 o'clock in the morning. And so what I'll do is I will, I can do this in my sleep, right? So I'll make up what we call a pouliche. Let me put this in the chat for you. Does that word ring a bell for anybody, pouliche? Maybe not so much. Katie should know that word because she took the course, but it is what we call a sponge, and that is just flour, water, and yeast. So what you do is you mix that up, and I might start with maybe 200 grams of flour, 200 grams of water, boom, and a little pinch of yeast. Mix that up, cover it up, feed the cats, go back to bed. And then in a few hours, I wake up after I've fed the cats and we're all ready to have some breakfast. Then I come back downstairs, and my pouliche has now risen. So I don't know what time you get to the bakery, Katie, but the amount of time you're going to spend hands-on with this is tiny. So it's like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. So now I want to add some flour to that pouliche, so and some more water and some salt. So I've already got this fermented flour, and I want to add in the rest of my flour, whatever my formula calls for. And usually the pouliche is, again, going to be 25% or so of my total flour. So if I start with 200, then I would be adding 600 more flour and probably another 200 of water. So you'd mix it up and a little bit of salt. So you'd have, then you'd have 16 grams of salt because you use 2%, and another, 9 or 10 grams of yeast. And we're just talking a very simple yeast bread, white bread, let's say. Mix it up, and I mix it by hand. I just use my hands or a dough scraper. You guys have a dough scraper, right? So mix it up by hand, and I don't even try to develop any gluten at that point. Just mix it up until it's all wetted up, and then I cover it up and put it away. It's 5 minutes tops, and let it sit for maybe half an hour, an hour. It could be 2 hours. So Katie, you go right back to work, do whatever you're doing. You come back to it in a couple hours, and now, and I love this, it's called a stretch and fold or a punch and fold, because by this point the bread has probably risen a bit, but it doesn't have a lot of strength to it. So you take it out of the bowl and you stretch it on a table, and if it's a little sticky, you can put a little flour down, but not too much, just a little tiny bit. Stretch it out, fold it in thirds, stretch it out again, fold it in thirds again, back in the bowl. If that takes you 2 minutes, I'd be surprised. Back in the bowl. And I do this over the course of maybe 3 or 4 hours. And again, Katie, we're only a few hours into your shift at this point, aren't we?
Yeah.
So given that, now I've got this all stretched up. Now, do I bake it off today? No. I put it in a plastic bag or into a container, goes in the fridge. So now that bread is going to ferment overnight. It's been fermenting for the last 4 or 5 hours as I've been playing with it, but it's going to develop even more flavor in the fridge overnight. And this is why, again, the amount of hands-on time is so little. The next morning, I always love waking up on the morning that I've made bread before. I forget that I made bread, and I go, oh, I have bread I can make today too. So I pull it out, like I made brioche yesterday, but I baked it off today. Take it out of the fridge, cut it up into pieces, shape it, cover it up with a towel, let it rise for 3 or 4 hours, turn on the oven. Your oven's already on. Boom, you pop it in there, it's good to go. So it's pretty basic. It's real simple. But again, it's just that, like, thinking about if I want bread today, I will have had to start yesterday. Does that make sense? Kind of like you ever see Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Remember when they put they put stuff in a place for when they come back? Oh, this is for our future selves, man. Well, that's my future bread. So I put it in the fridge and I forget about it. And I go, oh, dude, you left some bread for yourself from yesterday. Cool. All right, good. So I can have fresh bread. And my wife she was like, this is brioche. I made it for my class so they could see what I was doing. But she gets to reap the benefits of it. So she enjoyed her brioche roll for lunch today. What else are you guys working on? What kind of breads are you most interested in?
I've been working with sourdoughs, and that's kind of my thing lately because I'm from California, and I was spoiled by San Francisco sourdough bread, and take that eat it with fresh crab right on the wharf, and it was just my thing. So I kind of like those sourdoughs.
What's your favorite bakery out in San Francisco?
Let's see.
Do you remember Acme or Semi Freddy's?
No, there's one that's right on Pier 39, and I don't remember what the name of it is. But they have all these tons of different shapes of sourdough breads, and they sell fresh fish and everything.
Awesome. Let me look that up for you. Let's see here. Was it Bodine?
Yeah, Bodine's. There you go.
There you go. Cool. They make some awesome bread, but that's a good looking place. But there are so many good places in San Francisco. If you get a chance, if anybody's going out there, try Semi Freddy's. Acme bread is really good, and Boudin is really good. But Tartine, apparently this place, I've never been there. I've only seen the video of it. But if you get a chance, apparently there's he doesn't have everything ready to go early in the morning. He gears most of his crowd more towards the evening. So like at 5 o'clock, like happy hour, you'll be sitting out there with a glass of white wine and your bread and your cheese. And I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I want to do. But so look up that. Well, that's cool. What do you put in your sour, Ray?
I like taking the big sourdough rounds, hollowing them out, and stuffing them with cioppino.
Okay. Oh, nothing wrong with that, man. That's cool. But no, I meant more like what's the makeup of your formula?
Well, I've got the starter, which is, this starter is like maybe 4 months old now because I just keep using some of it, putting it away, using some of it, putting it away. And what I add to it is just salt, water, and flour, and that's it. So
white sourdough then. Right. Cool. Excellent.
I've made like there's like a recipe in one of my books. It's for like a sourdough rye, and that was pretty good. And I've tried that. It's come out okay, but I have to play with it a little to make it like really good because that rye flour is just really, really, grainy.
I was going to say I'd be very careful with the rye. I usually don't go over 20% on the rye because it gets a very strong flavor, but it also is really hard to work with because it's a gluten. Rye has gluten in it, but it's a very fragile gluten. It breaks very easily, whereas the white flour is very nice and strong and stretchy. It's easy to work with. But I would suggest when you make the rye, put a little bit of whole wheat in there too. Maybe like 10% whole wheat. And that whole wheat will give you that kind of buffer that you need to kind of help out with that rye. Do you remember what the percentage of the rye is?
I do not.
Okay. And one more quiz question, and I'll leave you alone. Do you know what the hydration level is on your bread?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well, let me give you an example. I want to put up a formula, if I can find it here. I can't do it. I'll just have to type it in. So I had 10% buckwheat. You ever do buckwheat in your breads?
I have not.
Let's see here, 20% wheat. This is a formula I just started making the other day, and it came out really super sour. It was really good. And then 70% bread flour. I did 75% water, 2% instant. No, I'm sorry, not 2%. 20% sour, 2% kosher salt, and I guess that's it. That's all I did, right? Yeah. That's where it came out. So anyway, so this is my formula. The reason I mentioned in percentages, guys, is because I can talk to bakers all over the world. Now, if I just say, well, I used 10 grams of salt, they'd be like, Yeah, so what does that mean? It doesn't have any relation to anything else. But I can talk to bakers anywhere on the planet, and if I said I have 2% salt and 20% sour, they're going to know right off the bat. Also, they're going to say, 75% water. Okay, I can imagine how sticky that dough is, or how dry. If I backed it off to 55%, that dough is going to be really stiff and very dry. But 75% is nice. So again, that takes a long time for it to hydrate too. But the percentages, and this is why I'm saying I really suggest you guys learn percentages, because that way you can talk to any baker in the planet, and they'll be able to understand you. Because we don't talk in terms of recipes, we only talk in terms of formulas. In fact, most of the time when you talk to another baker, I belong to a club or a association, guild, whatever you want to call it, Bread Bakers Guild of America, bbga.org for you website lovers. They'll just, you'll talk to somebody and you go, oh yeah, what's your hydration? Oh, 65? Cool. And immediately they know what you're talking about when you say it's a 65 rather than 75. Everybody assumes that you're going to have about 20% sour, and it assumes you're going to have 2% salt. Are you somewhere in that range, you think, Ray?
It should be somewhere in there. Now, just so that I'm understanding your formula on this, so you got 10% buckwheat, 20% whole wheat, 70% bread flour. That makes up just the flour content. That's 100% of the flour that you're using in the recipe.
Exactly.
75, let's say you're using, just to make it easy on the math, 100 grams of flour. 75% water means you're using 75 grams of water in the recipe?
Correct, yes.
I got you, okay.
So this is the way you figure percentages, and let's up that a bit, Ray. Instead of 100, let's talk in terms of real bigger loaves. Let's do 1,000 grams of flour. So I have 100 grams of buckwheat, 200 grams of whole wheat, 700 grams of bread flour, 750 of water, 200 of sour, and 20 of kosher salt. Does that make sense? So that's actually a nice size formula, a size dough, and that's the beauty of percentages. Because we're working in grams, it's all in tens anyway, right? So anytime I'm starting a new formula, I'll always start it with 1,000 grams of flour. And how you break that up is up to you. Breaking it up is up to you. And that's what I was saying about the rye flour. If I were doing a rye bread, I would probably go the 10% whole wheat, 20% rye, and 70% bread flour. Use that same formula, but then break it up a little differently as far as the flours go.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, I know people go like, oh man, numbers? I don't want to talk numbers. But those numbers translate to flavor and texture and color to some extent too. The buckwheat came out so nice. I gave some to my my dentist, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is so good." It was like the buckwheat ferments so much differently than whole wheat or bread flour does, and it was just like this incredible sour flavor. It was just really good. I'm definitely gonna make that one again. It was really good. What other flours you guys like using? Anyone? No? Do you guys ever try, what was the other one I was going to say? Of course, I can't think of them now. Amaranth flour or quinoa flour. I used to make a quinoa bread. You like quinoa? I like quinoa. I don't know. But the thing with using different flours is that you want to use much longer fermentation. Rice flour, Dina, yeah, you could, but it just doesn't have that much flavor to it. And there's something else to be careful with too. And this is true of the buckwheat and the quinoa and definitely the rice flour, no gluten. So you don't want to go too high on that. If you go too high on that, the whole thing, there's no structure. But the rice flour, you could. I like rice flour better. You ever make steamed buns? Oh, those are so good. So there I want to go. We're moving away from sour here, and I would definitely make steamed buns with that, with rice flour. That's really good. And I made another bread recently with rice flour. There was a British friend of mine who wanted something called tiger bread. You guys ever heard of tiger bread before?
Mm-mm.
I had never heard of this before, and I asked him how many tigers do I have to put in it. He said, no, it's not like that at all. There's no tigers in it. But what it is, and I'll see if I can pull up a picture here for you. But what it is a like a glaze that you put on top of the bread. I'll show you what it looks. And I thought it was, to be honest with you, kind of nasty. I didn't care for it. Let me see. Let me pull it up for you here. So it's this stuff, and the glaze is, and you can see it's 73 pence. It's just like a basic white bread, a really boring white bread, by the way. And then you take this mixture of sugar, rice flour, and vegetable oil, and you brush it on top of the bread before you bake it. Yeah, he was very happy. He was like, wow, this is great. But I was like, dude, take that stuff back to England. I don't want it. And I didn't even keep what I had. It was nasty. Hey, Richard, how's it going, man? We're just hanging, talking some bread. So, what was I going to say? Anybody ever have a bread that didn't come out right?
It's been a while, but yeah.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it was a while. That's cool. What went wrong?
When I initially rose the bread, it was I formed the loaves. It was rising. Well, had the kids. I started doing something with the kids. I forgot about it, and it just overrose, and it just sank.
Well, and what do we call that, Ray? Do you know what that's called?
Overproofing it.
Correct answer. Yes, sir. So, can you save an overproof bread?
At the time, I didn't know that you could. There was a way, but yes, you can.
You absolutely can. Yeah. Do you know how to now?
Yeah, you just basically punch it down, reshape it, and then let it rise again.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing that people don't realize is that you can salvage it. It takes a lot more time. You got to start right back at step 5 again, but it is salvageable for sure. So that's a good thing to know. That's good. Who else had problems? Richard, you make bread? Maybe not. Can you hear me okay? Oh, you're muted, dude. Hey, there. Hey, man. Oh. I was just saying, if anybody had any troubles, what Ray was telling me that he overproofed his bread. Have you ever made bread that had troubles before?
Yeah, same issue. I've had it overproofed, and I didn't know there was a way to save it. So, but that was a while ago. I haven't done any bread in a while, but I seen your bread build. I had a big interest in getting back into baking and doing bread, especially like artisanal breads and stuff. I really want to get back into that.
Cool.
And yeah.
What kind of breads excite you? Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's the foundation for everything,
Absolutely.
That's where it all started, was bread. And to make good bread, there's a passion behind it, and I want to pursue it.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, I got to agree. I mean, what I like too about it, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but check this out. What I like is I'm taking something, just these basic ingredients that don't really even go together, and making something wonderful out of it. I mean, if you take vegetables, and you could really coax some flavor out of vegetables or meat, but they were vegetables when they started, and they're vegetables when they're done. This is like, here's some dry stuff and some water, and then we're gonna make a salad out of it. What? That's bizarre, right? I mean, that's so strange. And I think another thing that people have a harder time wrapping their heads around too is the amount of time. I was talking to my cake class, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well, I was done in 45 minutes or something like that." I'm like, "Well, okay, that's like my first fold." Um, that's 45 minutes. I'm going to be waiting for another 2 days. I was telling him about a bread I make at Christmas time. It takes 4 days to make. It takes a while sometimes. So we talk in terms of days rather than minutes. And I think that's sometimes hard for cooks, especially, to wrap their heads around.
Hey, Chef Tom.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this, but this is one of the books that kind of got me interested in making breads.
Cool.
It was given to me by a friend, and I mean, it's got some pretty interesting recipes in here. One of the ones that's in here is because my wife loves French brie, and it's brioche wrapped French brie, and it's baked. So the inside is just nice and gooey, cheesy, with the outside nice and crispy.
No.
Yes.
Really good.
So it's the brie is wrapped in brioche.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that sounds good. Well, you know, it's funny you say that because typically you'd wrap it in puff pastry. You ever had it?
Oh yeah.
Brie en croûte is a nice French thing to make. But I like the brioche idea a lot. That's awesome. The only drawback of that though is, again, when I do my brie en croûte, I freeze everything. I wonder how you would freeze the bread dough without having the cheese completely melt out. Have you tried it before?
I haven't tried freezing it, no.
No,
But
I mean, if you tried it,
I've tried the recipe, and
Yeah.
it basically you encase the bottom of it and kind of make the folds in there, and then you flip it back over, and when it bakes in, it just kind of stays in there. The bottom seals up, and you just get that nice gooey, cheesy in the middle, just like if I've made the same thing before using puff pastry, and it comes out. I mean, oh, it's so good with a little bit of like cranberry glaze on the top. Oh.
Yes. That's awesome. Well, you know, it's funny you say that too because, again, when I was starting out, you know, I tried a lot of different things when I was a young baker. And one of the things I tried, because I had unlimited ingredients at the school I was working at, I said, wait a minute. Brioche comes from the Brie region in France. So why couldn't you make brioche using brie cheese as the fat? Substitute brie cheese with butter. And I said, oh, that's going to be good. Well, it worked. It was fine, but it was a waste of about $9 worth of cheese because even though the brioche came out fine, you couldn't taste it. You couldn't taste any different. It just tasted buttery. And it was good, but everybody's like, you did what? I go, yeah. Well, I used cheese instead of butter. Oh, okay. It's good. It didn't blow anybody away. It was not that great. But, you know, you learn these things. Let's see. What other things can we talk about? I have some more formulas for you. What I'm doing for April is we're going to make it all flatbreads. So I'm going to throw you some cool flatbreads for April. And I don't know if you guys dig flatbreads, but I dig them a lot. We're going down to New Orleans, and there's a restaurant down there I like to go to called Shaya. Anybody know about Shaya? Well, they have a wood-fired oven in the back of their restaurant, and it's an Israeli-type restaurant, or a Middle Eastern restaurant, I should say. And they do pita like hundreds and hundreds per hour, and they just keep throwing more pita at you because you have the hummus and the baba ganoush and the Israeli salad and all this stuff is so good. But so I said, flatbreads for April. And if you get a chance, I think you can get this book. I'm not requiring it, but it is a book called Flatbreads and Flavors. And it's just, I learned so much from this book. And so we'll do some pita, but there's also another bread in there that is not even yeast-based that I really like. It's called khachapuri. You ever heard of khachapuri before? It's from Russia. And, you know, maybe these days Russian breads are not the best thing to be making in our current climate, but it's really good bread. And it comes from the Georgian region of Russia. And it is filled with feta cheese and cheddar cheese. Oh, yeah, it's way good. And something else they do, and I'll offer it to you guys too. I'll do some pictures when I make them. But it's like a little, have you ever heard of a galette? You know what a galette is? It's like a little galette of bread, and the cheese and there's egg and feta cheese and cheddar and stuff on the inside. But then, and the egg is there to kind of hold it together. But then what they'll do is when it goes to the oven, they'll crack an egg on top, throw it in the oven. So you get this, it comes out of the oven and you get this nice, really crispy, crunchy bread on the outside, the chewy cheese on the inside, and then the nice fried egg or the baked egg on the inside or the top of the bread. Unbelievable. So I'll throw you that one too. Are there flatbreads that you love? For the khachapuri, sure. Say that fast 3 times. Zaida, what kind of flatbreads do you eat?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I try everything that is available in the restaurants that I go. So I'm vegetarian, so anything with veggies is good for me. Okay,
we can do a vegetarian. And it's funny, people might even call it a pizza, but you ever do a white pizza with greens on top?
Yes.
I think this is really tasty. So you can just I'll give you the pizza dough to play with too. But the pizza dough is really tasty. Wait a second here. Wait 1 second. I get a little thing going here. Wait a second. There we go. What you can do is just do a flatbread. I like to do long ovals, but can you have cheese though, Zeta, or no?
I do.
Okay, so you can do cheese on top. You could do a little olive oil. I like a crispy crust on there. Brush with a little olive oil. But then I do like some arugula. I'll sprinkle arugula on that top, and I will have tossed that with some vinaigrette. So with a fair amount of oil on it, so it cooks the greens into the top. But then I'll save some greens for later on. It comes out of the oven, and I throw the greens on top of the flatbread as I serve it. So it kind of wilts the greens a little bit, and chop that up into slices. Oh, it's so good.
Sounds really good.
So I think you'll like that. That'll be good. Think what else? What else do I like? I like a lot of. Pretty much any kind of bread. Flatbreads. How about? Do you guys like Indian breads at all?
Well, it's not really Indian bread, but have you ever had Indian fry bread?
Oh, well, the fry bread, yeah. I didn't mean Native American so much. I meant more Indian as in Asian. But the fry bread is tasty. I'm not a big fan of fried foods. I got to be honest with you. They don't agree with my stomach so much. But the Asian Indian bread, like paratha or what's the other one I'm thinking? Chapati is really good. And they're easy to make too. They're real simple to make. So flatbreads, you can bang them out real quick, throw in a fry pan. Or have you ever had what do they call it? Szechuan pancake? This one's a really weird one where you actually take some flour and you gelatinize the starch. You pour boiling water over the flour and mix it up with a little bit of salt, and you make this dough that feels kind of like wonton dough. And you can actually use wontons for it if you like. But I stretch it out, and I put down some olive oil and a little bit of sesame oil, and then I put Szechuan peppercorns and scallions on them and roll it up like a little jelly roll, right? And then I make it into a spiral, and I roll it flat again. So you've kind of laminated this this bread dough or this dough that you've gelatinized, and it comes out super flat. And you just put it in the fry pan. It's way tasty. Dina says she makes pizza dough with the recipe you give me. You add semolina at the bottom. Comes really good. Semolina so it doesn't stick to the paper, you mean? Yeah, cool. No, I like semolina. Have you ever had semolina pizza dough? You ever put semolina in your pizza dough?
No, what I do is at the baking pan, I add the semolina, and then I put the dough on the top. It becomes really, really good.
Nice and crispy.
Actually, we make well, a couple of weeks ago, we are on the sauces section. So I make the sauce, the tomato sauce, and I use it to make pizza with the recipe you give me.
Oh, cool.
Vegetarian pizza, and becomes really, really good.
I like that. We got all kinds of vegetarian. Any vegans on here?
I'm not a completely vegan, but I'm vegetarian.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't eat meat at all.
No, that's cool. That's totally fine. No, I can get away with not eating too much meat. I'm fine with that. I love vegetables. I love them. But I've been seeing more and more here in Chicago. But I was talking to somebody in Florida this morning, and she said the only bakeries around her house were all vegan. I was like, bakeries? She said, yeah, there's 3 within her 1 mile radius of her house. 3 vegan bakeries. What? When did this happen? Well, to each his own, I say, what the heck? What else do you guys like making? Ray, what kind of soup do you put in your soup bowls?
Like clam chowder.
Mm-hmm.
I love fresh clam chowder. That's pretty much my favorite one. I mean, I'll do like a creamy type of chicken noodle sometimes, but clam chowder or else lobster chowder. That's good too.
Oh, it sounds good, man. Oh, you like the seafood, huh?
Oh yeah.
I love that. That's good. Well, I was going to say, here's another question for you too, and this is kind of getting off of the whole bread guild thing, but I've been seeing more and more when I go to nice restaurants, seeing more and more yeastos on dessert menus. Have you guys ever seen yeastos on dessert menus lately? No, not so much?
Haven't really seen it, no. I mean, I don't go out to eat that often, though.
Oh, okay. I was out at somewhere, and they had, it was like little donuts, and they were making donuts to order with some kind of like a chocolate cremeux, like a really soft kind of mousse to go with it. And it was delicious. It was amazing. So I'm seeing more and more, and people are using brioche for their desserts. They're using more jams and so on. And I'm seeing more and more of this at the end of the meal. One of my favorite things, I don't know if you guys like baguettes, but if you have a baguette, if you have just at the end of it left maybe or something like that, if you have some ganache, spread a little ganache on that baguette. Boom, chow down. So you get a little salty and sweet together. And I don't know about you guys, but I love salty sweet. And it's really a good thing. Oh, and before you put the chocolate on, maybe toast it first too. That would be nice, just to kind of give a little more crunch to it. I don't know. So I was just throw it out there, see if you guys saw the same thing. But we see a lot of interesting stuff here in Chicago. But it's kind of fun to play with that. I'm trying to think what else. What else are you guys working on? Katie, what's the big seller at the bakery?
People around here, they're not into in my town, that the bakeries, and they're not really into the artisan bread. It's if I go down to Wichita, they're more susceptible to wanting the rye and marbled rye and stuff like that. But in the town that the bakery is in, they're not so much bread. Let's just say that it's more of the sweets and the. Oh,
that's what I figured. But what's your big seller at your bakery?
Oh, just in general?
Yeah.
Well, our fruit rolls and our cinnamon rolls, I guess.
Oh yeah. You were telling me about those fruit rolls. Those sell pretty well. What's the fruit that's in season for you guys right now? Or do you do it in season?
We don't really do it in season. We buy from we just buy from our U.S. foods. So dark sweet cherries, that's the favorite.
That's the big wow, okay.
Been recently doing peach rolls and apple pie rolls, and then peanut butter and jelly rolls.
Oh, awesome. I like that. That sounds fun.
So we spread peanut butter on the inside, and then we do a jelly reduction on top instead of a glaze. And
very cool. I like that
Yeah.
combo. That sounds good. Well, that's cool.
But that's what's been keeping us busy lately. One of our mixer fell off, our 20-quart mixer fell off its stand the other day, so we've been having to make all our bread by hand.
Oh no.
So, you know, we've been joking that great grandma Betty Crocker would be proud of us for having to get the wooden spoon out in the wooden bowl.
Well, I got to ask you a question. And,
Yes.
and this happened to me too. So, I mean, I had the same problem. So, but this was kind of on my part, but it was not attached to the table. Was your mixture not attached to the table?
It wasn't. It had like a little block so that it couldn't be pushed off, but it just kind of walked off. And
Yeah.
Yep. So we ordered another one, and we're going to definitely attach the next one.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're talking a commercial operation, and this is for you folks planning to open your own place, it's a good idea for a larger mixer like that to just really bolt it down to a table, have a dedicated table to it, and you might even have the table on wheels,
Mm-hmm.
so that way you could move it around. Is yours on wheels?
That's how ours is. We can bring it out to
Mm-hmm.
wherever we need it and then push it back.
Okay, so I'm working at the Ritz-Carlton. This is 1993, and I'm mixing bread, and I thought it had to go for, I don't know, the weird bread we were making. It had to go make for like 20 minutes or something like that. So I say to my buddy, hey, this thing has to go 20 minutes. So let's go get some coffee. So I let it go like this. Well, apparently I made it too stiff that one day, and it got moving around, and it was going nuts. We came back from getting coffee, and there's the mixer laying on its side going, and it had broken the head off of the mixer. And I'm like, and this is, luckily it's like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And he goes, uh-oh, I think you're in trouble, dude. You broke the mixer. And I go, well, you were here too. And he goes, yeah, but it was your dough. Oh, okay, fine. So luckily, and this is where if you work in a big operation, and a hotel is a big place, get to know everybody. Know the dishwashers. Know the front of the house guys. Know the concierge. Know the maintenance people that have welding tools. And so you make friends with these folks. So I said, wait, we can take it up to Jerry. He goes, Jerry's not. He's not going to do that for you. And so I said, wait, I'm on good terms with Jerry. So we unplug it. We put it on a cart, and it looked like a dead body, just like wheeling it upstairs, like, and it hit, the neck was all broken. And we like, and Jerry again used a word that I will not use here, but he said, what did you do to this mixer? And I said, isn't it obvious it fell on the floor? And he says, you're so stupid. And, he's older than we are. We don't know any better. And he says, all right, get that out of here. And, come back in an hour. And come back in an hour, and he put the head back in the mixer. The wiring was all perfect. And this was all before the boss came in. Put it back. And it could be there today, come to think of it. I haven't seen it in years, but I quit there in 1997. So it's been a few years. But he put it back together again for me. But that's why it's always good to make friends with everybody in the whole hotel. Get to know your coworkers, not just the people in your one little area. Know everybody. Make friends. So I lucked out. So I don't think my boss ever knew that happened. Anybody ever have problems with their mixer before? Did it fall on the floor, even at home? Nope. You guys are perfect. That's what it is. You guys take good care of your equipment. Well, talk to me in 30 years when you've been in the business for a while. You overflow yours? Oh, with the, let me guess, meringues, right, Dita? Yep. It always, because you go, well, let's see, the mixer's 4.5 quart. If I do 50 eggs in there, oh, no, that's not going to work. Okay. So you got to plan ahead. I know what you're coming from there. Yeah, we used to make a lot of Italian buttercream, and I use a 60-quart mixer, and even that you can overflow that, and it was like, oh my God, just pray it doesn't go over the top. And then once you put the butter in, then it'll come down, but it's a little scary in the beginning. Anyway, but that's that for that one. So you can expect by April 1, you'll see the new formulas for the flatbreads. Are there other areas you'd like to explore? So we've talked about sourdoughs. I gave you guys some good flatbreads, lean doughs. I think I'll give you some breads in the near future with a fair amount of fat in it. We did some at Christmas time and into January, February, where they were a little higher fat. Are there breads that you're interested in learning more about? Or you just trust me? Rich is like, dude, I'm good.
I would like to experiment with different types of flour.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to say, so I will put together directions for this one, but just looking at that formula, Ray, with the 10% buckwheat and the 20% whole wheat, do you think you could figure that one out?
Oh yeah, I can figure that out. I can work with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say try that one. Let me know what you end up with on that one. For those of you who came on late, let me repost this for you. I think this is my new favorite formula, and we were talking about percentages when we came on, but this is the way bakers talk to each other. And I'll tell you what, it's got a great color too. It really gets nice and dark on the outside. And yet it's got this nice kind of buckwheat color on the inside, even with only 10% buckwheat. It's really amazing. And it ferments like crazy. Focaccia, oh, you got it. So yeah, definitely we can do some focaccia. That would be a good one for flatbreads too, Dina. I used to make a focaccia at this Italian restaurant, and I make it, here's the secret ingredient, milk. Most people make their focaccia with water, but we made ours with milk, and it is just this soft bread. And the other secret ingredient is fennel seed.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just got this really nice kind of almost a meaty kind of aroma to it. There's no meat in it. Don't worry, it's still vegetarian. Well, does milk make it not vegetarian? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's okay. So there's no meat in it, but it smells like sausage because you've got the fennel seed in there, and it's just so good. So we do a little fennel, rosemary, thyme, oregano. What else is in there? And I like a little bit of heat too. So I put in heat. I mean spiciness. So I'll put a little. You do cayenne, but what I usually use is red pepper flake.
Oh, okay.
And it is, it's so good. So just like a little pinch, not like you want it real hot, but just a little bite. And but then you get the softness of the milk. Oh, it's just so delicious. So I'll throw you that one too for sure. Any others before we go? Any other flatbreads you guys think of you might want to see? Maybe not. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you guys joining me for Bread Guild. We'll put this out for a recording. If you want to watch it again, you're more than welcome to. But tell your classmates about Bread Guild, and we'll do this more and more. I wish I had more time to do it, but I've got classes most of the time during the week. But today, this worked out really well time-wise. So I hope this is a good time for you guys.
One question.
Yeah,
Question before you left.
Yeah.
Time on the recipe of the bread. You didn't give it the time. You did the percentages, but for how long?
For the buckwheat bread? It's like overnight. So you would remember I was saying about the punch and folds?
Yes.
You would do that. Go ahead.
For how long in the oven?
Until it's done.
Funny. 20 minutes.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, hey, think about this, Dina. If I have normally a loaf of bread is going to be 500 to 600 grams, somewhere in there, give or take, right? If I let that rise, and we were talking about overproofing, you don't want to let it rise, just double in volume. If I let it double in volume, it's going to be about 25, 30 minutes for every bread. That's pretty much how long bread takes.
Okay,
So,
I'm going to make it. If I burn it, I send you the photo.
Yeah, I would love to see it. Yeah. But remember, when you mix it up, do the punch-in folds, but then put it in a bag or put it in a container overnight. Let it sit in the fridge overnight. That overnight fermentation really makes a big, big difference. If you try to bake it in one day, boring. No flavor, no texture. You dig?
Okay, I start tomorrow.
Good. I'm good.
And I'm going to be waiting for the focaccia.
Oh, I'll definitely throw you some focaccia and pugliese. All right, it's good. I like that, Ray. I like that. Pugliese? Is that how you say? How do you say that?
Pugliese.
Pugliese. Okay, very cool. Well, again, post your pictures on Instagram. #Bread Guild. There's already a ton up there. See what's up there. See what you like. Post some more. I want to see some more stuff.
Okay.
Great to see you guys.
Nice to see you, Chef.
Have a good night, guys.
You too.